driving back from watching the Odyssey on IMAX. Yeah, that was an interesting experience. I initial impressions, it was a fine movie. I think it's definitely flawed. There's a lot of stuff that I really didn't need that they put into the movie. There's a lot of stuff that I just think could have been handled better. But there was also some stuff I did appreciate. There's also some little things that I think they handled really well. But I guess, like, if the question is, do I recommend this movie to somebody? My answer would be maybe. My answer is, like, if you're already a Christopher Nolan fan, like, you don't need me or anybody to recommend this movie, because you were already there. You were like me. You were watching it there. And I would consider myself like a Christopher Nolan fan. I don't think I'm a mega fan. I'm honestly, I kind of feel like I have kind of normie takes about this movie. I thought there was some cool stuff. A lot of things I thought would annoy me didn't really annoy me. Like, going into this movie, I'm trying to think of what I even knew. All I had heard was that there was some controversy about certain casting choices, and I heard that people didn't really like Tom Holland's performance. And I guess I'll just kind of break down my pros and cons, but I kind of wanted to walk through more or less like the story itself and what I think they handled good, what I think they handled poorly, and what could have been better. To start with, like, we have our initial framing of the story is through Odysseus' perspective and Telemachus' perspective. Telemachus' story, and he's played by Tom Holland, is kind of just superfluous. Kind of doesn't do much of anything. His story consists of this. He is in Ithaca. He's worried about the suitors. He's worried about the power struggle that's happening. And he's like, where's Odysseus? Where is he? And then he leaves Ithaca to go talk to Agamemnon's brother. I forget his name, Menelaus, something like that. He goes there and talks, and then comes back and then helps Odysseus fight the suitors. I don't think Tom Holland necessarily did bad. I just don't think he did anything with that role. Like, I kind of just think he was Peter Parker. I don't know. I think that's the only role he can play. He was just Peter Parker again. So, I don't know. I don't really have any strong feelings for or against him there. It wasn't as bad. His role wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I was expecting it to be pretty underwhelming. It was just whelming, I guess. So then we've got that initial setting of like, hey, where's Odysseus? What's going on with him? Is he alive? And then we cut to Odysseus living with Calypso, and it's Calypso talking to him, asking him to remember what happened after Troy. And that's just the framing the rest of the movie, is you're telling Odysseus' story while jumping back and forth from the past to the future, or I guess present day, however you would describe that. And it's the story is just prompted by these conversations that Tom Holland's character is having with Penelope, with Menelaus, and with Odysseus talking with Calypso, just recapping everything. I was pleasantly surprised that they did keep fantasy elements. I know that's kind of a silly thing to bring up, of like, oh, this is the Odyssey, it's a fantasy story. Why would they remove fantasy elements from it? But it's Christopher Nolan, and kind of going into it, I was like kind of worried that he's just gonna like go for explicitly like the the wishy-washy, oh, he was high at the time, or oh, this could be interpreted as this and this. But especially when you're in like Cersei's hut, and she's with her hands just molding these men into pigs, I was like, okay, cool, we are going full fantasy. Even though the Cyclops was huge, the Cyclops was massive, part of me still wasn't sold that Nolan was going to go full fantasy, that he was going to keep those neat elements of the original, and he kept a lot of that. He definitely liked his framing of the gods specifically as like not physical presences. I thought the way they handled Athena was interesting. I don't think it was particularly inspiring, but I thought it's funny. And again, maybe I'm just having only normie takes today. I don't know, but like, I didn't even hate Zendaya necessarily. I thought I was gonna really hate her. She just doesn't do anything because Athena doesn't really do anything in this story. And what's funny is like the only thing Athena does is just look at Odysseus disapprovingly in this story, which in my mind, and maybe this is silly, but like, okay, if you want someone to look at someone just disapprovingly and annoyed, Zendaya kind of has that face down. So like, I'm like, okay, I don't think she's a good actress. I think I'm sick of her. But if you're just trying to get butts in seats, and if you have a part that is literally looks mad staring at the main character and says one or two lines here or there, then I don't know. There you go. That's that on Athena, I guess. But Athena is the only god that we see. Like, I guess Cersei might be considered a god. I don't know fully how that looks. Not that important, but we see Athena, and it's framed as like PTSD visions, almost schizophrenic visions that Odysseus is having. I didn't really have any problems with that necessarily. Like, I thought it was fine. I don't know. And me recording this, I'm just realizing now that, like, man, I just don't have huge problems with the movie. I have little problems with the movie, and medium problems with the movie. There's portions it was where I think it was boring, you know, and I'm saying something's boring is pretty lame. I don't know. I don't like using boring as a critique because that's more relative. I guess the pacing was all over the place. There are portions of the story that I feel like we spent a lot of time dissecting certain characters' motivations. Like, for example, we just spend like a weird amount of time with John Bernthal's character Menalius, and his role is just to kind of give you some backstory to Odysseus and to tell certain parts of the story from a different perspective, which could be used to good effect, which could be used as an alternate way to frame things, but it just, I don't know, it didn't really add too much. It was so funny, all the controversy of like casting Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy and the sister. She just doesn't do anything in the movie. She's there for like 2 scenes. I didn't think her acting was particularly good or bad. She was just kind of there. Her sister kills Agamemnon. That was something. I don't know. There was a very funny imagery, but like it was less than 4 minutes of screen time. Like maybe 3 lines that I remember distinctly. I don't know. It was, but that a lot of the meta stuff surrounding this movie, like, I kind of just don't think really affected the quality of it that much. Not that I don't think that casting is important. I do think casting is really important. I do think historical accuracy is really important, and that's a whole other topic that I'm sure plenty of people have beef with this movie. And I have beef. Wow, I'm slurring my words today. I have beef too in that way. But if I turn off the part of my brain that's like, okay, it's weird that we've got a blended racial society in Ithaca, in Troy, in Greece, in this time period. Okay, if I just turn that part of the brain off, if I turn the part of the brain off that's like, hey, it's kind of weird that they're just talking in normal accents, which I was actually expecting that to be a bigger problem for me. It actually really wasn't. Like, it was like 5 minutes in of me being, where I kind of was used to it. And yes, there were certain words like Tom Holland saying daddy, or no, it wasn't even Tom Holland, it was Pattinson. Robert Pattinson said daddy. And like weird little things like that. The dialogue is kind of atrocious. The dialogue ranges from pretty solid to just like garbage. There's a part where Anne Hathaway, where Penelope is like, goes on like, I swear it's gotta be one of those like required Oscar baity rants that people do, that they put in movies because it's like, oh, we gotta make sure that this actress gets nominated for Best Actress or the Oscars. And like she gets like a 2-minute like thing where she's yelling at Telemachus, at Tom Holland, about, oh, and only a man can steal the throne, and and just she kind of just shrieks in a very funny way at this point. I don't know. Like, I think Anne Hathaway is a great actress. I just thought this one sequence felt really forced and wasn't really working for me. Yeah, that was tough. That was kind of funny. When I initially started recording, my intention was to go through just like the whole plot of the movie, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of other people are going to do that better than me. I kind of just want to keep this to just my raw thoughts post. I thought the Cyclops was cool. I actually I would have preferred a much more mythological looking creature, like something where, like, this one basically looks like it has special needs, right? But I was kind of shocked that it was as big as it was. I was expecting it to be just kind of like a big ol', like an oversized person, but no, it was huge. It was huge. I thought the practical effects for that sequence were really interesting. I was annoyed at first by how dark the sequence was, because they're in the cave, they've got only the firelight, and I was having a hard time seeing things, and normally that bugs me a ton. Traffic's kind of packed today, I guess it's a Friday at 3, so that'll do it. But I kind of took a step back. I was like, hey, in a lot of movies nowadays, a lot of shows, we get these really, really dark scenes just because, and it will have these long sequences, and it feels like we could have done this in the day, and this would have been better. I was more okay with it being with the Cyclops scene because it added to the scary horror element of everything, because they were in a cave, because they only had the light of the fire, because the Cyclops explicitly closed the cave mouth with a giant boulder. So the only light you had was the light of the fire. But I was kind of like, okay, well, is this going to mean we're not going to get like many good shots of the Cyclops doing things? No, we got some good shots, you know? I would have liked, what would I have liked from all that? You know, something that did bug me and that still bugs me, and I understand when you're adapting things, you can't put everything in. I did think it was lame that Odysseus didn't tell the Cyclops that his name was Nobody. I was like, come on, that's a cool sequence. That's really cool. It didn't damage the story at all. Like, it didn't. But in my mind, I feel like it was a weird thing just to leave out, especially when you do have that brief sequence where the Cyclops is praying to Poseidon, which, okay, I couldn't understand what he was saying, not because the monster was like slurring its words, or maybe it was, I have no clue, but it was just because it was so, the sound mixing is so bad in Christopher Nolan movies. I don't get it. I don't get how, like, why can't we mix our movies better so that I can understand what people are saying all the time without subtitles? Like, it wasn't until they're on the ship later and the crew's like, I heard him praying to Poseidon, which maybe I'll learn later that was the intention. What the intention was, you can't really understand, but the crew members heard and they understood what it was. I still think it's kind of lame. Like, it would have been cool to hear that more explicitly. It would have been cool to have that moment where Odysseus says his name is nobody. But beyond that, that sequence is neat. It was cool. I thought they did a pretty good job with that. The giant, the battle with the giants and the moving trees was kind of underwhelming for me. There was some cool stuff. There's some cool imagery, but like, I don't know. All the fights in this movie, I just thought were kind of shot pretty poorly. A lot of shaky cam, kind of hard to follow things a little bit. I'm gonna have to talk about the end fight because that was kind of a joke. I will in a little bit. I'll just keep moving on with the story for now, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, the giants look cool. It was interesting. I kind of forgot about that part in the original Odyssey story. So, like, I had a brief moment there where I'm like, oh, wait, is this just Nolan bullshitting some giants in the story? I do not. And that was my fault on my end. I just was like, I was a little mystified. I was like, I do not remember the giants, but it was interesting. I don't know. And that's kind of where I come back to for a lot of these sequences. These individual moments are kind of cool, kind of interesting. And I guess my problems with the movie really come down to pacing and framing. I like in other Christopher Nolan movies how he frames his stories. I mean, Prestige is one of the best movies ever made, and I think I really enjoy the telling the story in three or four different time eras and framing it as one person reading the journal, the other person talking about another person. Like, there's some cool stuff there. And Oppenheimer does kind of similar things where you've got like your black and white plot and you've got your color plot and all of that, your fission versus fusion. I just feel like a linear story probably would have been better, like, for the Odyssey. I understand that, like, we want to set the stage for everything happening at home, but I don't know. I think I would have preferred removing Tom Holland's POV entirely, or maybe just adjusting it. I don't know. I just don't feel like we gained too much from the Suitor story, and maybe the reason that I think that is just that's kind of the like that's the weakest part of the original story in my mind, and I'm sure that's a crazy thing to say, but it's obviously important at the end of the story that Odysseus killed all the suitors, and that's where the stakes are at. But in a way, I think that, I don't know, it would have been, I think I would have appreciated it more if we had less visibility on the greater landscape and it was more focused on Odysseus' journey. So, yeah, we're going to have to cook more on that thought, I suppose. What else? What else even happens in this movie? I got to talk about the Cersei cabin hut sequence. That was disgusting. A lot of people won't like that. I thought that was pretty cool, actually. I was really uncomfortable. It was wild, but I thought it was a pretty cool sequence of her manipulating their faces and turning them into pigs. That was pretty neat. I was really curious to see how they were going to do that, and I thought I was impressed. That was really cool. It looked really sick. Yeah, I thought the actress for Cersei was a standout. I thought she did pretty good. I enjoyed her a good bit. Then from there, we go to the land of the dead. That sequence was good. There's just, I'm remembering now. There's like this part where, like, after talking to Sinon, who, like, Ellen Page did fine. Again, like, a lot of the performances were just mid or fine in this movie, and that's kind of where I put Ellen Page's Sinon is who the character was. But Sinon and Odysseus have their conversation, and then Agamemnon just kind of floats forward. Like, it's such a weird sliding effect. I don't know why they did this. Well, I mean, I think the intention was to, like, to add, like, a more mysticism to it. It just looks so derpy. Agamemnon is such a funny look. Here's where I stand on his armor. It looks retarded. It doesn't look... It looks pretty silly. I kind of dig it, though. Like, if you're trying to take the story seriously, it looks stupid. But anytime he was on screen, I was kind of just, like, smiling a little bit. Like, there's just something about it. It just looks so edgy, so over the top. There's a part where you get flashbacks of Troy, right? Of, like, them crawling out of the horse and opening the gates and everything, and there's just a shot where they open the doors and you see Agamemnon just standing there, and it's so... It'd be one thing if, like, his soldiers also had similar get-ups to him, but no, he is the only one who looks like that. He's just this dweebus in this big-ass armor, just standing there. But I don't know, something about it is just so absurd to me that I kind of like it. I honestly think, I'm just gonna say it now, I like his armor, you know? I'll defend it. Nothing in this movie is historically accurate, by the way. There's nothing historically accurate in this movie. And once you turn the part of your brain off, there's actually a lot of fun things to enjoy. And, like, another big issue I have with this movie is the world does feel pretty small. Like, the way, something about how they shoot certain scenes, something about how they, Ithaca just doesn't feel like a real place. It just feels like ancient ruins that they dressed up for a movie set. And I just, like, I don't know. I kind of felt like they were pretty lazy. There's more they could have done to make that feel real to me. So that's that. What else? What else do I need to talk about with my ramblings? I feel like I've hit a lot of my big points, except for the final fight. I really want to dig into that because I thought that was stupid. I guess my highlight of the movie is probably... Well, okay, I'll get to that. My highlight in the movie involves Troy, and also my least favorite part of the movie involves Troy. And to start, there's the sequence where they're getting out of the horse, and that's all fine. I thought the horse stuff was pretty cool. Like it was kind of interesting. I like that we got an inside POV of them all squished together, and you see certain characters kind of drowning and then struggling to breathe, and there was some cool imagery there. And then the Trojans come, they get the horse, they drag it, they move it, they set it up, and then Odysseus and Menelaus and I'll forget the other guy's name. I'll remember his name in a little bit. But they all get out. They're opening the gates, and that sequence is like, there were some cool things about the sequence. Like, I thought they did a good job of making me feel like, hey, they got to open the gate quick or else they're gonna die. Up until the soldiers actually were showing up and engaging in combat, then it just took me out of the moment. I was pretty annoyed by, and this is a pretty consistent thing in all the fights. I just don't feel like these soldiers were doing a good job. I don't know. If the purpose of, let me pull my thoughts together. If the purpose of this sequence is to show how realistically Odysseus and his men could have opened the gates, let Agamemnon in. I don't think they did a very good job. I would have like preferred it if they were more sneaky. Like I would prefer it if like essentially no guards show up until it's too late. Then like a dozen. It looked like about a dozen, maybe 2 dozen guards showing up with bows and arrows shooting at these guys from a distance. Dude, your gate is being opened right now. Like, why are we shooting arrows? Let's get your spears. Like, we're getting everyone in. Like, there were 1 or 2 shots specifically that I was really not loving in terms of selling me on, like, Odysseus and his men, like, got this done because of their conniving, because they were gutsy. They were just lucky, and I get that's part of the story too, like, because like they weren't and I do enjoy that part of the narrative, that like they violated Zeus's law, they broke like the current social construct of the day, I guess, is kind of what the movie gets at, and that ends up leading to a ripple effects that kind of destroy civilization, which a lot of that is undercooked in my mind, but that's for another topic, I guess. Yeah, I didn't like that initial Troy fight. That's honestly all I needed to say in that way. So that's cool. That's something. We get some flashbacks there. Then after, yeah, that's right. They were in the land of the dead. They were in Hades. Dr. Agamemnon, that's really gooby. And then he's told by the prophet that they need to choose between Charybdis and Scylla, and beyond that, they need to avoid killing the cows of Apollo and all this other stuff. And those sequences were fine. I thought Scylla was kind of derpy, just a little bit. Like, I think practical effects are really cool. I don't know, as that sequence was happening, I just couldn't help but think about the Kraken for Pirates of the Caribbean 2. And just how cool that looks to this day and how real it looks. And I don't know, I didn't think that sequence looked that good. But again, like, I was glad it was a creature that was doing things. Like, I love seeing the creatures do stuff. That was good. Oh, and I guess before that was the Sirens, or after that was the Sirens. Either way, yeah, that sequence was fine. It was interesting. I don't know. I guess I'm not creative enough to know what else they could have done to make that sequence better. Beyond telling Matt Damon to, like, act like he's Odysseus better. And I guess to explain that, my recurring problem with the movie is, like, all the actors will go in and out of character so often, except for the lieutenant's name. I know his name. And it's not coming to mind right now, but I'll remember when it's too late. That actor did pretty good. I enjoyed him. Matt Damon, man, he's such a good actor. He's got, like, he owns my favorite sequence of the movie, which I haven't got to yet. Like, he does really good. But then there's just parts of the movie where, in my mind, I'm not sold that he's experiencing the things he's experiencing. And, like, with the Cyclops, I would have liked some more, like, human interactions. Like, guys, we just saw a freaking Cyclops monster. And everyone's freaked out, but they weren't really acting like real people. They were just kind of like, and I like stoic male characters. I love it. I'm down for, like, we gotta get this done. But, like, I don't know, in Lord of the Rings, like, when the caves troll is showing up, like, you can see in Boromir's face, Aragorn's face, Legolas' face, like, this is a big deal when the Balrog shows up. Like, there's ways to show that these characters understand the stakes of their situation without emasculating them. And I don't think that this movie necessarily emasculates men. It just doesn't do anything. It doesn't it does such a poor job beyond the Cersei sequence, because I thought that sequence was, at the very least, I was grossed out and invested enough that I liked that. I thought Matt Damon did better there than he did in other parts. But yeah, the Cyclops sequence, he just wasn't. He wasn't acting like he was interacting with a Cyclops. It was just like, oh, here's the next problem we got to deal with. So there's a way to handle that. There's a way to handle that, and there's a way not to. And I kind of think they chose the latter. Reason I bring that up is the sequence of the sirens. I kind of just, I don't know. I know it's in the original story, but me hearing the myth of and Odysseus leading his men through, he tied himself to the mast because he wanted to hear the sirens call. Like, it's easier for me to have that just be a part of mythos, a part of this story in the written text of the Odyssey, of the original work. It's easier for me to like view that as like a realistic decision than what I saw on the screen. He just seemed a little too happy about it. Like, I don't know. I would have gone back to the drawing board on something. I don't know what you could have done to make that not seem weird. But I guess that's part of the point, is that Odysseus is kind of acting selfish, and that's what's making his crew distrust him. Be that as it may, I was kind of whatever about that, but it was fine, I guess. Yeah, then after that is Charybdis and Scylla, and then after that they get to the island, and that was good. That was fine. We get another brief little interaction with Athena, and again, like, Athena just is there. Athena doesn't do anything, doesn't really leave an impact beyond you being like, okay, Odysseus is talking with this goddess, or maybe he's not because he's crazy. Doesn't really matter to me either way. Like, I'm honestly fine with the story taking either approach. Well, let me clarify that point. I would have, if I were making this movie, I would have leaned way heavier into the fantasy, way heavier into like Athena being an agent in the story, like actually talking with him about stuff, rather than the metaphorical, she represents his desire or his yearning to come home or whatever. I don't necessarily think that's what she meant, but you get the point. That all said, for the sake of the story this movie was telling, she was fine. Like, her story, and I guess I said that earlier, but like, she was what she needed to be, I guess. And then they all get back on the ship because the wind dies down. The wind had been breezing enough, if that's a term, I guess, that they couldn't leave the shores, which is why they were starving, which is why the men eventually eat the cattle of Apollo. So yeah, I don't know. That's just what happens in the book. So there you go. Then the storm happens. Pretty cool sequence. I liked it. I thought it was pretty neat. The ship is shattered, and then Odysseus is basically back up to present day, and he's with Calypso. I guess Calypso is pretty uninspiring. Calypso was just kind of there. I don't know. Yeah, Calypso was dumb. Honestly, kind of a dumb character. I like, in the original story and in the mythos, I like that there's context behind Calypso beyond just some random out lady who finds him. Like, I like that it's like, this is essentially, and granted, I haven't read the Odyssey, so this is just me gleaning what I remember from the Arthur cartoons and various other parts of pop culture, I guess. But my understanding is he's put on the same island as Calypso, basically as a prison, and then she is immortal and she's stuck there, and so she's almost views him as like finally her opportunity to find love and happiness, and and then he's like, I gotta go, and then she does let him go. I don't know. I thought Calypso was undercooked. I thought that she was lacking. Charlize Theron is hot, but it's kind of, she's also old now too. Kind of interesting. People get old. Matt Damon was pretty yoked for this role, like all things considered. Like he wasn't jacked, but like for a guy in his 50s, or is he 60? I don't know how old. I think 50s. I thought he was doing pretty good in this movie. Like he did a good job. In terms of physicality, his acting range is crazy. Before getting into him returning to Ithaca, I guess I'll just talk briefly about the suitors. Like, we only really get to know Robert Pattinson's character, who I don't remember his name. It's something alias or whatever. And then there's like a black guy who's his crony, who is there too. Pattinson's got some good moments. I kind of liked that his character was sneaky. Like, I liked that he was playing the long game, whereas a lot of the other suitors were either just being lazy, leeching off of the supplies of the house, or the crony who was just hyper aggressive. Seeing him get shot in the throat was like, I liked. That was like the one shot of the fight I liked. Everything else in the fight I thought was stupid. But yeah, Pattinson was good. Yeah, he was fine. But I guess I didn't need him as a character though. Like I know I know there was like a chief suitor basically in the book, and it's fine to like to have a final villain bad guy. I just feel like that a lot of that, basically everything in Ithaca and that whole plot line could have been removed, making a much leaner experience, and then we just have kind of that sequence at the end. And I feel like I would have gotten about the same out of the story. I don't know. I still have about, whoa, it's actually a lot longer than I was expecting. Still like another hour. Oh, did I miss my exit? Hold up. Wow! I think I missed my exit. That's not good. Is that why it says? That's what I get for talking at my phone rather than anything else. I could have sworn I'm doing this right. I think I am doing this right. I think my map is just stupid. Whatever. Very, very high quality listening experience this is. I don't think my map knows what it's talking about. I'm where I need to be. We're just gonna keep going. But we've got the final confrontation. Okay. Before all that, I really like Odysseus being sneaky. Odysseus rescuing Telemachus from the fake priest was pretty cool. I like all that stuff. All that stuff was pretty neat. And the brief moment, like I had my heartstrings strung a little bit when like he gets to pet his dog, and I wasn't sure if it was implied or not. I thought it was implied that the dog basically died in that moment. I wasn't. Whatever the case, that was a cool little moment, and I liked how that was how Telemachus figured out that it was his dad. I thought that was cool. Then he gets inside, he's a part of the feast, he has a little tussle with Robert Pattinson, and all those people are let out, they're all forced out, and then Odysseus as the beggar talks with Penelope through the door. And I thought I really liked this sequence. I felt like it did a good job of finally opening, like exploring what Odysseus was going through. Like I thought that sequence of the Battle of Troy was really cool. It was really interesting. I liked the framing of bringing full circle the idea of this Zeus's law and that he violated it, and that basically everything bad that had happened started from that moment. Yeah, it was cool. I thought the dialogue was really well written. I liked his back and forth with Penelope. I thought it was cool that Zendaya, like she had there was a woman who gets killed in the city who was played by Zendaya, and that's who Matt Damon has been seeing as Athena the whole movie. That was cool. I like that. Not inspired, again, like a lot of those kinds of decisions, I kind of feel like were the low-hanging fruit. In my mind, that's what I was expecting to be the case. Is like, oh, and I bet she's just someone from the city, and sure enough, she was. But again, that doesn't mean it's bad. That just means that, like, it was kind of wasn't. It didn't blow my mind. But if you were to ask me what was my favorite sequence in the movie, my favorite sequence in the movie was him coming to terms with what he had done, and that he had his guilt for everything bad that had happened basically all stems from Troy. It all stems from him destroying this city, and from the movie's framing, ending that current era of civilization and basically the code of honor that they had. So, cool stuff, cool ideas. I definitely would have enjoyed exploring that more in the story. I don't know how yet, but I enjoyed that. We got some cool shots of the Battle of Troy. We got some, which is a good moment between those two. Honestly, a better moment than when they do reunite finally at the end of the movie. Like, I don't know. Finally, we get to the Battle of the Suitors, and I liked everything up until the fight actually started. I thought I enjoyed that it wasn't like he was stronger than everyone else in order to string his bow. It just he understood the method. He understood how to do it specifically with his bow because it was his bow. I thought that was cool. I don't know enough about bows to tell you at all how realistic that is, and I really doubt that it's realistic. Like, I'm realistic. Ooh, that guy did a braked pretty quick. Glad I didn't smack into him. Oh, and we're stopping. I guess it is. This is annoying. That's okay. I find. Ooh, that's a nasty smell. What is that smell? It smells like freaking garbage. What the heck? What are we doing? Why is this saying I have to get off the exit? I'm so confused. My map wants me to get off and then get back on the freeway. Why is this? What are we doing? Silly thing. Why? Yeah, I'm not doing that. We're just gonna... Oh, wait, is there like an accident? Is that why? Yeah, because it's saying... Interesting. It wants me just to avoid a whole part. Did I miss something? Huh. Well, I mean, I've got all day to get back, so we're fine. Yeah, I had... In order... I watch... I guess I'll talk briefly about this before I talk about the final sequence. I did watch this movie in IMAX. In order to do that, I had to drive about an hour and 20 minutes. I thought it was a cool experience in IMAX. It didn't blow my mind, to be honest with you. My logic genuinely wasn't, oh, this is going to be IMAX is superior. It was, I'm worried that I'm going to miss chunks of the movie. And they were harping about, oh, this movie's entirely shot in IMAX and yada, 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 so go see it. in IMAX, and I'm a sucker. I guess I'm a normie. I just went and did it. What I will say is there's parts of the movie that I would be really curious to see what it looks like in a normal theater. Like, especially with the Cyclops, with how tall, like how tall those scenes are. I don't know. It kind of annoys me. I'm like, are we losing just half of the movie? Like half of what we're seeing? But what's also funny is like so much of the movie, of the way they frame scenes, are like you're really close to actors' faces. You don't have as many like panning shots. At least I didn't seem to notice any. Which almost defeats, in my mind, the point of having like a bigger camera. Like, I get to see more of their face, I guess. I don't know. Ah, dang. I think we're kind of cooked right now. This is kind of bad. I'm behind a Toyota Corolla who is from Oregon. That's kind of fun. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna be stuck sitting here for a bit. Shoot, we're already 46 minutes into this recording. Well, I've kind of wasted enough time. If anyone listens to this, I hope you've enjoyed my ramblings, and I hope that you get what you thought you were gonna get from this. Yeah, the Battle of the Suitors. So Odysseus goes, he strings his bow, he shoots, and in that moment, they realize that it's him. The crony, the black guy, is like, it's Odysseus, and they get shot in the throat, and that was sick. I was like, that was a very cool shot. Not that I hated the character, it was just kind of like a cool, like, jarring moment, and the fight starts. And then the fight, it just like, the movie had, like, to be fair to them, it is kind of a tough order to be like, hey, there's like 40 suitors, and Odysseus has to do a 1v40 and kill basically all of them. Their solution to this is he doesn't kill all of them, like 10, 12 of them just concede, and then the rest of them all just take turns fighting him. And I thought that was stupid. The dude has a bow and arrow. He has a bow and arrow. You're all men. You all rush him. You all just sit on him. You won. You won. I don't know. I get, like, you're trying to stay true to the original, but, like, it was stupid. There was no way Odysseus wins that fight at all. And then Tom Holland has a freaking, like, the longest 1v1 with the dumbest crony ever. There's a servant who's working for Robert Pattinson who knows where the weapons are, because they take all the weapons. They put them in this other room, and they're like, okay, like, now that we've done this, we've barricaded everything, there's no way the suitors can fight, so he can just have a heyday and kill them all. Which is what happens. What I would have preferred is, like, what could they have done? Like, I thought there's a lot they could have done. Like, it would have been interesting if we see Odysseus make, like he's quick on his feet, and he's like, he just keeps taking shots. Like, he's what's the term called? He's kiting. Like, if the fight was just him kiting everybody, just moving away, running away, taking a shot, and just willing them down, that would have been more believable than what they did. Not saying that that's believable, that's necessarily, but would have been way more believable than just like, yeah, you've got like 4 people on you, and then you win, and then no one hits you in the head. They're all just kicking you. Like, you kill him. The dude, this is the guy. This is the guy that you have been fearing was going to come home. Why are we being so passive about this fight? Like, you have fists. Yeah, man, that was a garbage fight. That was very silly. So I was pretty checked out of that whole last fight. And yeah, Tom Holland goes and has a 1v1 with this crony who goes to the room. He ends up getting locked in the room, but lucky for him, that room is above the banquet hall. So he smashes a hole through the floor and starts throwing weapons down. And once weapons enter the fight, I was like, okay, Odysseus just loses, and I'm fine. And that's enough. I guess that's my problem with this not being as fantastical as it could have been. If by the end, by this point in the story, we had seen to a greater degree Odysseus be more than just a man, be basically like an epic hero, I think my suspension of disbelief would have held better. Maybe not held entirely, but would have held better. But man, he was just a guy. And I get these are the suitors, and they're all supposed to be lazy and dumb, and they're not veterans and all that. I don't know. I would have preferred, and the fight just went on too long. It was like a long fight. Tom Holland's character was so lucky that the guy just didn't take 5 seconds to just, like, after knocking him down, to just stab him in the throat. Yeah, I'm angry just thinking about that fight now, actually. That was pretty stupid. But then it ends, and then Odysseus kills Pattinson, and the other ones concede, and whatever. And then he's got arrows and spears in him, and he walks up to Penelope, gives the token of Athena that she had given him back, and then he crumbles into her lap, and then they talk about sailing into the West, Lord of the Rings style, and then the movie ends. So, all in all, I liked the movie. It was a fine movie. I wouldn't see it again unless I was going with a friend who really wanted to see the movie. Like, when it comes out on streaming, I probably won't. Realistically, I probably won't watch this again unless a friend is wanting to watch it and wants someone to watch it with them. That is the scenario where I would see this movie again. Yeah, like, some boring parts of the movie. Pacing left some to be desired, but again, like, all the woke stuff people were worried about, like, yeah, the casting choices were weird, 100%, and there's like one or two weird modern deism rants that I thought were kind of odd, but in reality, it was just kind of an okay, whatever, mad movie that had some pretty cool parts that I thought was cool. Like, I was kind of on the Odyssey high up until, from what point was it? More or less from him talking to the ghosts, the shades of his dead comrades, up until he kills the first suitor. I was kind of like in a spot where I remember thinking to myself, like, oh, maybe this is like gonna like end really well and continue to build momentum, because I was really liking it. Especially the big thing was his first conversation with Penelope and the flashback to Troy, the recontextualizing of that really worked for me. I enjoyed that a lot. There's an ambulance coming up behind me. It's like, I'll have to pull to the right here. What a joke. Do I recommend this movie? No. Unless you're seeing it, if you've got a group that, if you're just wanting to go see a movie this weekend, it's not a bad movie to go see. But do I love this movie, and do I think everyone should see this movie? No. So, that's it. That's all she wrote. I'm going to try to get home in one piece. Thank you to those who listened. Have a great rest of your day. Here's to better movies in the future, and we'll see what happens next.